All right, hopping in real quick to let you know about something we're super excited about. If you've known the show for any length of time at all, you'll know that Steven and I are both musicians. We've played together in bands for something like 20 years at this point, and we currently have a duo that's just the two of us, and we just put a new single out. It's available worldwide. I'll let Steven tell you how to find it, what it's called, what it's all about, and then we'll carry on with the episode. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, the single is called In Memoriam. Our band name is Token Sacrifice. So if you just look us up on your favorite app, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use, you should be able to quickly find us. We got a single there, and hopefully more to come.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of old tracks as well you can find on most of the platforms, but this one specifically deals with like people that we've lost in our life. It's very meaningful to us, and we hope you like it as well. Anyway, until next time, have a great day. Hey, Nick here, hopping in real quick just to let you know about the context of this show. If it feels a little bit like this episode is out of sync with some of the more recent episodes we've done, there's a great reason for that, and it's because it was, in fact, recorded many months ago and just never got released. The story behind that really is just the fact that our second kid was born in my family right after we recorded this episode. And, I was just obviously completely tied up, didn't get put out. So we felt like it was still a great topic to talk about. But if you're listening to us talk about our lives and current events or whatever in the show, if it feels a little bit like what is happening here, that's the explanation for it. We did a couple of these, and we'll pepper them in when it feels like a good slot in our schedule that we need to fill. So I'll always hop on at the beginning like this and let you know if there's any reason for it to kind of feel wonky in terms of the overall arc of the story of our show. So there you have it. Really hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Hello and welcome to the Working Man's Weightlifting Show, a show where working men talk about weightlifting. I'm your host, Nick Wiley, and I'm joined today by my permanent co-host and younger brother, Mr. Steven Wiley. Steven, how you doing?
Doing pretty well.
Always got to ask.
Would you?
Just making sure,
You don't even give me time to ask how you're doing.
I never thought about that.
I tried, but
it's all about you. Yeah. Well, okay, ask me how I'm doing.
How about you, man?
Good. I'm good.
Nice.
I'm pretty good. I've been getting over a little sickness.
Plague.
Plague. The plague of having a toddler. That's all it is. It's just never ending. In fact, I've probably talked about that the last several episodes. If you've been listening recently, I'm never well. So, it just is. I don't really know what to do about it. I've talked to other people who are in a similar position, and I think this is just a phase of life kind of thing you have to get through.
Yeah.
Although you and I we talked about there's something in the air.
Oh yeah, you're not alone. It's not. I don't know that it is just kids. There's people everywhere.
Something. Yeah, I don't know. There's some conspiracy just trying to take us all out. I don't know what it is, but it feels like. I guess I'll say it this way. Growing up here in this area that we're in, it did not feel like everybody was sick all the time.
No, yeah.
It now feels like everyone is sick all the time. And if you ask anyone, just a random person that you might be acquainted with, they will also say it feels like everyone's sick all the time. So that bit of extremely well-researched scientific data that I'm bringing to you here today is true.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, moving on. We got a good topic picked out. And shall we reveal what that is?
Sure.
Okay. You want to do the honors?
I can.
I wish this was a video podcast.
So we're talking about optimizing your program. We've kind of debated about how to even say what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Without, it's easier just to explain. But yeah, I found an article the other day by a man named Joe Scalero. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Written in 2018 on EliteFTS.com. And the title of it was How to Train While Working a Physical Job. There's not a lot of this stuff out there. That's literally why we started this one of the reasons we started this podcast was because there wasn't a lot of information about that. So I like this article. You know, if you have time, check it out. It's not very long. I think it says it's like a 9-minute read. But we'll dive into it a little bit. Some of the topics that kind of stuck out to me that I liked. But yeah, that's where we're going with it.
Yeah. So to summarize, we're basically talking about optimizing for if you work a manual labor job.
Or really any job. I mean, honestly, there's some points in here that could give you some pointers, even if you don't, if you have a different type of job.
Okay.
You know, it kind of gives you a thought process behind it.
Yeah.
But yes, mainly for manual laborers.
Yeah. So before we do that, we always like to do a recap, and it's a good tradition we've had since the early days, and it's probably helpful because, I hope it's helpful. In fact, if you have feedback, if you don't find it helpful, you can contact us at workingmansweightlifting.com. But anyway, we like to talk about training recently, but before we do that, we always, this thing doesn't just fund itself. We have to have a word from today's sponsor.
Could it be the sunglasses we turned down?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah. In fact, it does, run itself. There's not any money involved yet, but one day there might be.
Yeah.
If there is, this is the time when we'll tell you about it. Until that time, thank you for being a listener. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that at support.workingmansweightlifting.com, or you can buy merch at shop.workingmansweightlifting.com. That all goes a great way towards helping us keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
And the mic's hot, baby. Moving ahead. Quick recap. I'll try to be brief. And I'll start this time because I always make you do it.
All right.
So training for me, if you've been listening for the last, few episodes, my just constant theme is like, how do I get back in the gym after becoming a dad, which was nigh on 2 years ago. So that has just been a constant in my life. But now I actually finally feel like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I'm like winning any awards, but I am getting stronger, and I'm like at least at the gym every week. My current goal is to be there 2 days a week, which I know may sound, you came here, you're like, this is a weightlifting podcast, and the guy is celebrating lifting twice a week. Hey,
it's optimization, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Hey. So yeah, I'm trying to optimize, and I am currently, I had been doing starting strength. I decided to switch back to strong lifts because I like their app a lot, and that may be a terrible reason to choose a program, but I mostly I had paid for it. That actually has a lot to do with it. The app is a little pricey, and I had paid for it, and I was like, I want to get some more use out of this before I just move on from it, which I'm doing, and I would say it's going well. I'm getting stronger. I'm not truly following the program because it's a 3-day-a-week program, but because it's an A-B style, it actually lays well to a 2-day-a-week situation. And my numbers are coming up. I think I just squatted. Yesterday I was doing 180 on the safety bar, which is harder to do as much weight on, for 3 sets of 5. And I think my deadlift's up to like in the 240 range, something like that. So my current goal, I want to get the squat up to 200 at the very least before I would consider changing the program, because I'm just trying to like rapidly get stronger, like get it back to numbers that I've had in the past.
Yeah.
And for me, the highest I ever got on squat was more like 300, and on deadlift probably like 380, something like that. So I would say, and I'm taking bench more seriously now, which is new for me. I'm benching every session now, which was your suggestion because of my trying to kind of rehab my shoulder, and that's actually going really well. I mean, I've hit it every time.
Nice.
I mean, it's not like I got a lot of work to do. I think the last one was maybe 130
Oh yeah,
or
that's
135 for
good. Yeah.
3 sets of 5. But anyway, on the way, and I would say it's going really well. So thanks for the encouragement
Yes.
and accountability. So how about yourself?
Things are going pretty well. I kind of spent some time. We did some program reviews on here actually, and I think we may have another one or two to do. But I spent a bunch of time kind of testing things out, you might say.
Yep.
Because mainly for this show, really, honestly, that's what gave me the inspiration behind it. I kind of had gotten a little burnt out on just plowing into strength training or whatever, one kind of method of training. So I've tried several things. We talked about, I did a program for Mind Pump. I did Mike Matthews. I did Strong Lifts. And I actually put time into each one of these. Like, I did at least what was required for one.
Like a cycle.
Yeah. At minimum. Some of them more than that. And so that's a little bit of the inspiration for the topic today anyway. But it's right now where I'm at actually is doing more strength training, kind of a blend of some things I've learned through this whole process, you might say. Kind of using what has worked for me, what I found that felt good, kind of getting rid of what doesn't feel good. And I think it's going pretty well, but I would actually encourage other people to do that if you're in a situation like I was, where you're kind of a little bit burnt out. You've done a lot of things. Your numbers are decent. You're not like, I wasn't going to be like the Hulk. I wasn't training for a powerlifting meet or something. If you're doing this to be healthy, to be strong, to be a little more muscular, whatever it is, you can really get a lot out of testing things out for yourself.
Yeah.
And that being said, I've done a lot of time in the hypertrophy range, you might say. So higher reps, 8, 12, 15. And I just did some, I would say mild 1 rep max testing last week. And I did pretty well. I used the safety bar, and I think I did a rep of 290. So I told you, I think I'm fine. Very hard on that bar. Probably make a whole episode out of that bar, honestly.
Yeah, we probably could.
But that bar is difficult for many reasons. At the moment, where I stand on it is, I think it's very useful for people with shoulder problems like Nick's dealing with. But I don't like the bar. It gets on my nerves, I would say. But I was happy about that. 290 is pretty heavy for me on that bar. That's
maybe we should clarify as well. If you're new to weightlifting, what a safety bar is, just really quickly, it's a squat bar that has these like shoulder pads that are attached to it that basically it rests on those pads on your shoulder.
With like handlebars.
Yeah, basically as handles, and you hold on to it as they come across your shoulders, rather than wrapping your arms all the way around to the bar itself. So that's why it's very helpful for if you've got shoulder mobility issues like me.
Yeah,
I can't get my arm all the way around to a normal squat bar without basically warping the shape of my spine, and that's why
we decided. Your form up.
It messes up my form. So I can do a proper squat with safety bar. However, the byproduct of the safety bar, because it's sitting on these big pads on your shoulder, is that it rests way higher on your shoulder. And so it changes the angle as you're going down. And most people find it much more difficult to like if you pick up 200 pounds on this and 200 pounds on a regular bar, they do not feel the same at all. It feels much harder.
More quad focused. Front of your legs. You're getting rid of a lot of the hamstring help from a regular squat. Especially in my case, I do a low bar squat anyway with the barbell, so it's way different. But anyway, I did 290 there. I think I did 360 or 365 on deadlift. I put 405 on there. I know I could have pulled it. 360 was very easy, but I got a little nervous because I was doing everything, and I was just I didn't want to.
Same day.
Yeah, I didn't want to just do it out of nowhere and hurt myself. So I backed off on that. I did 225 on bench just to make sure I still could. And I did a couple other little small movements that I do, like Meadows rows that we've talked about, similar to barbell rows. So I felt very good. I mean, I took a long break off of really pushing the big lifts like that, and I was still able to hit some pretty decent numbers. And so it kind of goes to show that you have a lot of muscle memory there. So anyway, that's kind of, that was literally last Friday. Here we are on Thursday of the next week. So it was almost a week ago. But yeah, all in all, I would say it's going very well. And I've made some changes I'll talk about for the sake of this topic that I'm kind of excited about going forward. So
cool deal. Well, plowing along, we want to keep this as brief as possible. So, how to optimize mostly for manual labor, but for any labor, we all have to labor, unfortunately. Well, maybe not every single one of us, but most of us do.
Yeah.
And, it's like when you read about a program, it's always done in a vacuum. It feels like, maybe not always. I like to generalize if you haven't figured that out. I love to just make broad sweeping statements about people and things and places. So, one of my favorite things to do. Generally speaking, when you read about a program, because they're writing it for a general audience, so they can't really, like, it would not behoove the author to like necessarily factor in a super specific lifestyle because they're trying to reach as many people as possible. So, but as you've pointed out, like, it has always felt to us, it was like the main motivation for starting this podcast was like, there's so little information out there for people who work manual labor jobs. And yet, number one, you probably need to be in the gym if you work a manual labor job because you need to take care of your body because you need your body more than someone who sits behind a desk in a sense. At least you need it for your work. You need it directly for your work. And also you need to really focus on longevity because you're beating your body up throughout the day. And also, you're like, it probably will help you in your job. Like in other words, if it's manual labor, you probably need to be strong. Like, it's likely that you are lifting heavy objects throughout the day. So a million reasons, and yet very little info. So anyway, I'm teeing you up. Yeah. You're now in the tee box. Little golf. Neither of us really play golf, so
I didn't even know that was golf term. Honestly. No, I'm kidding, but I don't know anything about golf.
I play once a year. I don't even play that anymore. I used to play in a charity tournament for a client that I worked with, and it was a blast. And I am terrible, so bad. I mean, it's like I admire anybody who can play. But the golf runs deep in my in-law family.
Yeah. You got
my wife's family. Yeah. So I hear the talk. It's always on TV. Like if I go over there just to hang out on a random Friday, they're watching it, which is, if you've never watched golf, that's a thing.
Oh yeah.
That is a thing.
Exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm teeing you up. The ball is on the tee. You have the club in hand.
Okay. Well, this article I mentioned, Joe Shillero, EliteFTS.com. One of the main topic lines in the article, pretty early in it, says, "Don't let being idealistic prevent you from being realistic." And then he goes on to talk about basically, don't be so focused on the perfect program, in quotes, that you neglect the optimal program. And that really stuck out to me. I think that's really key. And when I said that this kind of plays into both manual labor and otherwise, that's more what I'm talking about. Exactly what he says there.
Yeah.
The perfect program, I was reading through Mike Matthews' Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger a little bit the other day, just like reading a few lines from it, because I just read about this stuff pretty often.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how, 5 days a week is best. Then 4 days is a little bit worse. And then 3 days is a little bit worse than that. Like, kind of blanket statement in the book like that. But the whole time I'm thinking, but that doesn't really apply to me or someone else. And, there's other jobs that are even more physically demanding than mine by far. So, I found this article, and when he says that, what he's saying is like, you're at work, you're working hard. These programs are take a 5-day-a-week program. It may be 5 days of pounding away reps. You're doing 3-4 sets of 12, 15 reps, something like that. And through these programs that I've been testing over the last several months, I found a lot of these programs kind of touch in that rep range.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I don't think there's anything wrong with that rep range for, say, an office worker. 5 days a week, you go through all the rep ranges. You start low and you kind of build higher and higher and higher. The weights drop back a little bit, but you're doing loads of volume. You're adding reps. I think that's good. But when you, like in my case, I'm using a trowel for, doing a shower wall or something like that. Well, I'm basically doing like hundreds of mini little chest fly things all day with this trowel, picking up, I'm doing like mini deadlifts, picking up tile off the floor, bending over, thin set, buckets of thin set, doing farmer's walks. Then I'm doing these little chest fly things with a trowel all day long. It really, you're getting reps in. I mean, as far as your body.
I've seen you lay hardwood too, which is like hammering.
Yeah.
Like actually, the way that works, if you've never seen it, is very physical.
Yes, yeah. And it's, if you have another person with you, it's still physical for two people. There's a whole lot going on that goes into that. And I've done, some of these whole houses with two people, me and one other person. My wife, a lot of times now, is the other person. And we both will be sitting there just all day long, burning calories. I mean, just going through it. But along with burning calories, you are kind of wearing out that movement pattern.
Yeah.
And so here's a good example of like what I found. I did the Mind Pump anabolic program. And in that program, it is loaded with shrugs, dumbbell shrugs, maybe some barbell shrugs, but all I remember is just endless dumbbell shrugs. I have not done that in years. I did it. I wanted to do the program like it was written, so I did them. But I mean, I'm talking multiple sets. A questionably weird amount of shrugs. I don't honestly, it was almost comical. Like I really was like laughing when I would look at what I needed to do for the day. Cause like, what's the deal here? I've not seen an episode where they talk about why they want to shrug that much. Maybe they have a reason behind it. I honestly would like to hear. I found it to be really weird, but like in my case, you're reading this article and he's talking about, if you're carrying buckets around, pretty heavy buckets all day, which is something I do very often.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't need to be hitting the dumbbell shrugs. You're shrugging. You're kind of holding it with your traps. You've got this.
Yeah.
And it's very true. And it's easy not to really think about it like that. But, I'm working the traps very often doing that kind of thing. The other issue with it is what I found is when you pound away at those reps like that, like say you're going to pick a 5-day-a-week program, and in that program you've got, loads of tricep work and then loads of traps like that, bunch of shrugs, a bunch of dips or a bunch of tricep pushdowns, whatever it is. Some of these programs are written where like, oh, get over it. It's just tricep pushdowns. It's just shrugs. It's not a big main movement. Yeah, but the thing is, you are wearing out that joint. Like when I get to work, there have been times where like I pick up a very light bag of something, like it's a partial bag, a thin set or whatever, and like literally my elbow feels like it's gonna snap, or my wrist starts to hurt really bad, and I know that's what that's from. It's from kind of just too much volume in this thing when I'm using that at work so often. And so how have I? Like, what have I done through all the testing that has not really caused that? And typically lower reps, 5 and below with heavier weights, I don't ever really feel like that. I remember hitting a PR on strong lifts about a year ago with bench press and squats in the same session. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I remember being really excited talking to my wife because I had 2 super heavy buckets later that morning. And like my back felt amazing. I felt the best I had felt in years, honestly. Everything felt good, despite the fact that I had just lifted basically the most weight I had ever lifted in my life back to back like that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't wearing myself out, I was doing 5 reps. I worked up to one heavy set of 5, and that was it. It was like, or it could have even been 3. That program goes between 5 and 3 on the Mad Cow program. And it felt really, really good. But again, it's all about optimizing for what you specifically do. So,
Yeah.
you know, just like you mentioned, you're 2 days a week because that's what you know you have time to do right now. And that goes into play as well. You know, what do you have time? Like, where is the time that you can carve out? Like what, you know, if you look at a 5 day a week program and Mike Matthews, for example, is telling you it's the best, maybe it is, but can you actually be there 5 days a week? If even questionably no is the answer, then
Right.
it's no longer optimal for you. Because if you start missing days that you needed, very similar to how I told you to start bench pressing all the time, you're only going twice a week. Your shoulder is damaged. You don't have a problem benching with the barbell, but you do have a problem with overhead press with the barbell. So I'm like, hey, just do bench. If you have extra time, maybe hit some dumbbell press or some kettlebell press to work on that range of motion for your shoulder, but don't spend valuable time of a big lift
Yeah.
when you can't do that big lift, you know?
Well, and
Go ahead
also
and hit one.
it would be one thing if like you're talking about optimizing, like for me, it would be one thing if I had at one point had a very strong bench press, but I've actually always struggled with that. I've never had a bench press I was like happy with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I usually start to plateau once I get about to my body weight.
Yeah.
And I've never really been able to go much past that. So, which fluctuates. So I won't say it on here. But anyway, yeah, that's something that I think. How do I say it? I'm fumbling a little bit here, but something actually occurred to me while you were saying all that, which is that for someone who works manual labor, like your routine, your daily work is like skewing the numbers. And what I mean by that is like, several episodes ago, we had a friend on who was talking about periodization.
Yeah.
And how, and you've experimented with programs that do that a lot, where you move through these different rep ranges. And I think there's a lot of data to support that. But if you have a job like that requires you to do this high rep sort of repetitive motion thing, in a sense, like your your flat line is not the same as like the lab rat person.
Right.
So like your reaction to those changes in the program is already sort of going to be off from what you might expect to get out of it. I'm not saying I don't have data. I'm not saying we did a study and here's what we found.
Right.
I'm just extrapolating that basically there's no way that it wouldn't have an effect.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we're doing the same things. I mean, weightlifting is picking things up and moving them, and that's what you do for a living, basically.
There's a weird, like, I've heard Mark Ripito, who wrote Starting Strength, say that basically get over it if you do manual labor. Like, that's your new baseline. Like, he almost argues, at least when I saw that video, he could have changed his opinion. That was several years ago, but he basically was just like, yeah, that's just who you are now. Your body's used to it. So almost like you can't use it. And I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. Because what he's not taking into consideration is my job changes. There's days that are pretty easy. They're still manual. I'm still crawling around all day, installing stuff, but say it's LVT, luxury vinyl towel, it's click together stuff. You're just clicking it together pretty easy. You're not really wearing yourself out. But then all of a sudden the next day, you have to demo an entire massive master bathroom, and you're carrying out granite slabs from the countertop. You're busting out showers out of the wall. You're beating and banging ceramic tile off the floor, off the walls. Well, now your daily output just skyrocketed. You know, your workload that day just went through the roof. Then the next day, maybe you're installing a bunch of new stuff, you know, and now that stuff's heavy. The other day, a few weeks ago, me and my wife did like 400 square feet of ceramic tile that were 2 tiles to the box, 75 pounds a box. By the time we were done doing everything we had to do, each tile weighed about 75 pounds. Yeah. And we had to do that for like a week and a half straight. And we were exhausted. Every day we would get done working and we were like, dude, that is kicking our butt. Like, it was hard. But then the next week, I'm not doing it. Back to a little backsplash, doing a little piece of tile that weighs a few ounces or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's massive changes. So I can't give you an exact baseline because it changes daily. And I'm not going to turn a job down just because it's going to mess up my recovery for the gym.
Right.
So that's what I mean when I said I don't agree with him. I think Mark Ruto is very smart, but I think in that you don't know what you're really talking about in that unless you actually work in that field is what I would say.
Yeah.
Because it does change. And in the article I was mentioning, towards the end of it, he talks about how you have very little margin for basically messing up your recovery. And that's a big one. That's actually exactly what I'm talking about. Because of that reason that everything changes, you need to account for recovery. And some ways that you can do that is what we do. I train early, first thing in the morning. That's a great way to make sure if your day is going to be real rough, you've already gotten your training done.
Right.
To me, doing that in the evening after working that hard, it's a lot easier to talk yourself out of it. If you just worn yourself out all day long, I've done it. I was younger.
Yeah.
I've definitely done it. I think it sucks. I don't enjoy it. You're dirty, you're sweaty, you come home and then you still have to go get even sweatier and more worn out. Makes it a lot harder. First thing in the morning, get it done. I think that works great. I think a lot of people agree with that. It gets it out of the way. You don't have to worry about it as the day is getting harder at work. Also, changing the amount of time or how many sessions per week you do, just like you're talking about doing 2 sessions. I'm doing 3. And you, main thing I don't want people to think though is like it doesn't mean you can't do other forms of training besides powerlifting. I'm talking about keeping the reps low. To me, low reps are basically 8 or below. I don't really consider 8 to be that like super high rep where you're really burning something out.
Right.
And through all this testing I've been doing, I have found that 8 seems to feel okay and below for me. I don't really get that super worn out feeling. So there are ways, there are programs out there. I encourage you to look for them. I just found one I was telling Nick about. Strong Lifts has put out another program where you do the big lifts on Monday and Wednesday, and then on Friday is like a hypertrophy day where you do multiple sets of 8. If you're the kind of person looking for that, if you're looking for a more bodybuilder style or something, you're just kind of tired of something you're doing, there's a great option. It's out there. If you want something you can follow a week and it gives you the numbers, what you need to do every day that you show up. And it allows you to do things. But what you can't do is you can't bodybuild like Ronnie Coleman did when you're doing manual labor.
Yeah.
And this other person is already the Mr. Olympia. That's not a good route to follow because he didn't have the same restrictions that you do. So to me, you can get excited about it. The worst part is that I would like to, just as the article said, do the perfect program. I would love to work out 5 days a week. That's what I used to do. I think it's really enjoyable. I love doing it. Most lifts I enjoy doing. I enjoy hitting the numbers, all of it. But I just can't. Like it just doesn't work. I get burnt out very quickly. I start feeling really bad. My recovery just plummets. So for me, what has worked is 3 days a week. I found it to be the best. When I started doing that, we started that a couple of years ago. Pretty much everything started feeling better. My numbers started going up. I felt like my body actually like put more muscle on. I looked more trained. You might say I'm not a bodybuilder myself. I'm not some giant human being, but I definitely felt like I appeared a little bit more like I had picked up a barbell at least once in my life. All from making those changes, more recovery.
Yeah.
I was able to sleep a little bit more. I was able to just take a break from pounding the weights over and over and over. And so there for me right there, that's optimizing versus just trying to be perfect.
I'm going to continue to say the word yeah. It's been my greatest contribution to this episode.
It has.
Yeah. How about a rendition of Usher's Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
And a cool, calming voice. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When will it end? That's what people are wondering.
I'm wondering it. I can tell you that.
Oh, man. Well, I like it, man.
Yeah.
What is there to say?
That's it.
For me, I ain't got it. I admire you. I have worked just a couple of days, like alongside you. Usually, like if you're doing a job for like a family member or for me, and man, it is a thing. If you work an office job, it's just an entirely different world.
Oh yeah.
But I would, put forward that maybe my brain is way huger than yours.
Probably. Way huger. I like it. That's hilarious.
Oh man. Well, I hope this has been helpful. I don't really, I mean, I could, we talked about optimization and yes, I've had to do that because of my life.
Right.
My job, it doesn't really pertain to that though. Like I sort of have a perfect job to be, and if you're new, I do IT for small businesses. For the most part, it does not really impede. If I wanted to be in the gym 5 days a week, I could do that. There are days, maybe specific to me, I travel to customer sites on some days where the travel part of it it makes it a little bit dicey. But if I was like just a gym rat,
right,
I could say, look, I don't show up ahead of X time. So
yeah.
I can still make that happen. But for me, the restraints are not so much work related. They're more around just trying to be a helpful dad and be present as much as possible, and doing it in a way that it just works for our family. So,
well, and one more point for that, you can another way to optimize your program is to look at what you do for work or your life. If you using the safety bar is a great example of this. Because your shoulder is messed up, it's not optimal for you to do a low barbell squat.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Is that what some of these programs like Starting Strength are based off of? Yes. Is that what they tell you have to do? Yes, that you have to do the low bar squat. A lot of them would say, just get over it. You have to do it. Well, you can't because you can't. So it's not optimal. But like for the manual laborer, what might not be optimal, if you are a brick mason or you are somebody that's carrying around these ridiculously heavy loads of concrete, whatever it is, massive heavy buckets all day long, like your job all day is to carry the buckets. You might want to think twice about how many deadlifts you actually need to do.
Yeah.
You may not need to do any. You may need to do, you may want to hit that part of your body, the posterior chain. You might want to hit the back, your hamstrings, your glutes. Well, you could do that in other ways. You can do that with other variations of the deadlift, Romanian deadlifts, something a little bit less strenuous on the body than just a full-blown barbell deadlift. And I'm not saying you need to stop. I'm just saying if you're having trouble or if you just feel too worn out, so you end up not going to the gym because you're, I'm supposed to deadlift and I'm not going to do that. There's other ways to work the body and not feel like you're going to just collapse. And again, for me, that's something I've had to learn too. Just, look at your workload as a kind of generalize, as Nick likes to do, your workload, and decide, okay, well, I do loads of lunges all day long. Like for me, that's what I do. I get up and down off the floor. I'm constantly working my legs. I'm going up and down stairs all the time. So I have found, endless amounts of Bulgarian split squats, lunges, whatever, you name it, single leg movements, whatever. I start to get my knees start to hurt, my hips start to hurt. It's too much because I'm already doing that all day long. So I don't need that. I don't need to add a bunch of that stuff in. So I'm even right now, currently, I'm reducing the volume on the legs because of that. I'm trying to hit the big lifts and then kind of let that be my leg training. Whereas
for me, as an example, that would be highly valuable because during the day, I'm not doing that at all.
Exactly. You don't do any lunges. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it could actually be very beneficial to you.
Right.
So yeah, you know, look at your workload. You may want to add in some shrugs. You know, if you have some weird job where you're like laying on your back, like say you're a plumber or electrician, you're like crawling under houses, you're laying on your back constantly doing things above your head. Well, you're doing more push movements. You know, you're not really working the lats at all. You're not really working the glutes, the hamstrings, whatever. So maybe you need more deadlifts. Maybe you need more rows, more shrugs, whatever. So, you know, consider that when you're thinking about your workload. Even if you're an office job, you know, you're sitting all day long, you're hunched over, think about your upper back, you know, build the upper back so you're not hunched. You're pulling. Nick plays a lot of guitar. He was told when he was young that he was hunched over from that. And the guy was like, I could have fixed this years ago. You know, well, that's one way to fix it. You know, build that upper back, maybe some shrugs, maybe some rows, whatever it is, build the back to yank you backwards. So that now you're strong enough to, you know, combat that weird body shape that you have caused from doing this repetitive motion over and over and over. And it will give you a little bit more balanced feel. It'll probably make you feel better if your back's hurting from that or whatever. You may actually feel better from.
Yeah, because I was doing that
focus.
at that time. You know, when I first became a guitarist, it just became my like obsession. So I was doing that probably 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Every single day, and
not
over
working
time,
out.
and not. So I started to like, I just became like
Little crab
very
man.
forward focused, which is still a thing. I mean, it still is
totally
with me
normal,
now. But yeah, I mean, if you zoom way out, I think what you're saying is like just zoom the helicopter. You're in a helicopter. You're looking down at your life. It's like what are the things that I do a lot of, like repeatedly, and then maybe consider either removing or at least just working around those in the gym rather than just pretending they don't exist.
Yeah. Try to optimally think about it.
Yeah.
Think about what you could do to not wear yourself out.
Yep.
You got to play the long game, even if you're trying to be strong or big.
For sure.
You still have to play the long game.
Yeah. You don't have to. I mean, you could play the short game.
Sure.
too.
You can do whatever you want to do. But
I
want to play the long game as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I think we're going to land this plane. We both, speaking of jobs, have to do them now. We've started recording this in the morning, and it's weird. Having to be somewhere. It's like, what is that about? But it's probably a good thing. So yeah, thanks for joining us. If you're new, what would really help us a ton, just if you take 30 seconds, leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. That goes a long way towards helping us rank in these lists that they do. And that also helps us get better and better guests, which really does seem to be working. We've got a cool guest coming up soon that seems to have way more reach than we do. And I don't think we would have gotten that opportunity if people weren't supporting. So thank you so much for that. Again, if you want to read more about us, hit our website, workingmansweightlifting.com. You can find us on Instagram at workingmansweightlifting is the handle. And we'd appreciate a follow there as well. I've been Nick.
I've been Steven.
We've been the working men who lift weights and talk about on this show, and we'll catch you next time.